Sofia University came out of my years of experience as a student, as a graduate student, as a young faculty member, and I taught first at Harvard University as a teaching assistant, and then I moved to the University of California at Berkeley for a year, and then for 6 years I taught at the University of California at Santa Cruz. In every case, the faculty, the psychology faculty, was old-fashioned. They weren't interested in major changes in psychology, but I was. The beginning of my thinking about transpersonal psychology happened when I met the founder of Aikido, Master Morihei Ueshiba, in Tokyo. I went to Tokyo to do research and to study Japanese language in 1964. And the first day I was there, I found a bus that took me to the main dojo for Aikido. And I had a letter of introduction to the founder from my teacher in Hawaii. I'd studied Aikido for maybe 3 or 4 months. And I went into the dojo and I handed my letter to the office director, and he said, "Thank you," and then disappeared. And he left me. You know, in Japan, it's like in China, there's an area where you take your shoes off, and then you step up to get into the house or the building. So I'm standing there waiting, and it seemed like a long time. And finally he came back and brought me to a room in back of the office, and there was the founder of Aikido and his son, who was the chief instructor in Aikido. Now, I had been studying full-time Japanese for a year in Hawaii, which meant I had very poor Japanese, not very good. And I was nervous because here was this man, I saw his picture. The first time I saw his picture, I was deeply touched in my heart. And I said, "I'm so honored," and it was just very uncomfortable. And he said, "It's fine, I'm glad you're here." And we chatted a little bit, and then his son took me out into the dojo, and he said, "You have 15 minutes to change into your keikogi, your training uniform. Class starts at 3 o'clock in 15 minutes. So I quickly changed into my practice uniform, and he took me out and introduced me to the one foreigner who was training at 3 o'clock, who became a very good friend for many, many years. And he was also interested in the spirituality of Aikido. He's very serious about it. And we talked a lot about it. And I remember him telling me he would go to visit O-sensei, and he would say things like, "Master Ueshiba, I really want to learn to do your Aikido." And the founder laughed. He said, "That's nice. Almost nobody does. Everybody just wants to do their Aikido." But there was something about the founder. I had the sense that he had developed himself inside. And that had nothing to do with his skill at the art of Aikido. It had to do with the fact that he became a more mature human being. Now, I had met Abe Maslow once. I'd read his books and things. And I had the honor of introducing him at Harvard. I was the chair of the colloquium series where we've invited visiting scholars to give talks to the graduate students. And so I got to introduce Maslow. And he talked about his ideas, and he talked about self-actualization, and he sort of sounded like a sort of kind old uncle, saying, here's what human beings can become. He didn't sound like a professor. And I said to myself, he sounds wonderful. And then the thought came, I'm only a graduate student. If I try to be like him, I'll never get tenure. I'll never get to stay at the university. That's the kind of talk you give after you've taught and written books, not before. And I was absolutely right. But I had the idea that I really wanted to study self-actualizing people. But I had never met one. Just Maslow had written about them. And that day I said, that's it. I met an honestly self-actualizing human being, Morihei Ueshiba. And that's the kind of psychology I want to do. I want to teach Aikido the way he did, which is as a way of teaching spiritual principles, character development, which I did. I mean, when I returned to the United States from Japan, I began teaching Aikido. I still do. So I taught Aikido, it's been more than 50 years. But what made it real was meeting a real self-actualizing person and saying, I can do this. I met one. So that was the beginning of my stepping away from traditional psychology, because I was trained to do experimental social psychology. I knew how to run experiments, and I was good at it, but I realized that's not where my heart was. Where my heart was teaching transpersonal psychology. So that's the birth of Sofia University back in 1964 in Tokyo. And slowly I met other psychologists who were also interested in transpersonal psychology. For many years, when we had the annual meeting I think it was usually June, of the Association of Transpersonal Psychology, I would teach Aikido every morning. You know, someone would teach Tai Chi, someone would teach meditation, and I would teach Aikido. And many of my students went on to continue their work in Aikido. There was a wonderful scholar who fell in love with Aikido, and he was an expert in William James. And he was at Harvard as an independent scholar, and he became the Harvard Aikido professor. So it spread that way. When I was at Berkeley, I started a dojo, an Aikido dojo at Berkeley. I went to Santa Cruz the next year, and for 6 years, I taught Aikido at UC Santa Cruz. Then I founded Sofia, or ITP, and I taught Aikido there. And I made all the students take Aikido, which they had some resistance, but I was able to teach it in a way that they could benefit personally. They could understand that it was really practicing transpersonal psychology. So that's a very quick introduction to how it started.